I've played Dead by Daylight for a very long time now. In fact, this fall it'll have been 5 years since I started playing DBD. And one thing that in the past year I have noticed is that Behavior has made three original Survivor paragraphs. Now, paragraph chapters are basically where you only get one character, and paragraphs typically refer to a Survivor only chapter. And one thing I have noticed is the false advertisement for some of these chapters, which, I mean, it's already pretty annoying, but then they give us something that's also extremely underwhelming in addition to that. And I have come to notice it a lot in the past year. So, to start off, one thing I should clarify is that while paragraph chapters have been something that have been in DBD since about 2017, I'm pretty sure, the first original Survivor paragraph chapter that we have ever gotten was all the way back in 2021 with the addition of Michaela. She was the first original solo Survivor chapter. And she was pretty unique because she was a witch. She had a lot of, she had the boons, so she was a pretty cool survivor. And there was no false advertisement to my understanding, and she was still pretty cool. She gave a lot of information, and she was pretty crucial in my eyes. Then we really hadn't gotten a solo survivor chapter at all, or a solo killer chapter that at all for a while after that, until last year when finally we had gotten a solo survivor chapter again, that being Arella. And I'll be honest with you, I really did not care for Arella. It doesn't help the fact that the marketing was extremely weird. So what led me to actually coming up with this video idea, something that I probably should clarify before we go any deeper? Well, in a conversation the other day with my good friend Sal, who actually helped come up with this idea for a video, we were talking about how false advertisement for Survivor-only chapters has become pretty awful, because it's always extremely misleading, or it sets us up with expectations of what we should expect and then gives us something completely different, which is basically the exact same thing I just said. But let me give you three examples of what I think are, misleading, what I think are misleading. So the very first one I just mentioned was Arella, and it originally kind of gave us the idea that we could have possibly have gotten Jordan. Now, if you don't know who Jordan is Hattie's brother. She moved in with Jordan after her parents were killed in a car accident, and they became really close. We were hinted that we would have possibly had gotten Jordan in the game because they were supposed to be getting a Survivor-only chapter in May last year, and before that, the last original chapter was none other than Doomed Course with Tori Kane. And Tori, in her lore, attempted to kill Jordan. And now you might be thinking, well, that really doesn't automatically mean he was going to come to the game. You are correct, but there was a few things that kind of made it seem like he was destined to come. Two things specifically. So very first off, in the official art that was released before Tori's release, you can actually see they gave Jordan his own design. And the second thing was that in the pants for one of her release cosmetics, which was the one that kind of made her look like Adam Warlock in Marvel Rivals, it mentions that both of them were taken into the fog, which is something that is very interesting. So we know he is in the fog. So the next logical step would have been to include Jordan into the game. Now, of course, that is a small example, so let me give you a bigger example that happened just a few months ago. So, while I was waiting for All Kill comeback, we did not know that we were going to be getting All Kill comeback. Me and my friend were under the impression we were going to be getting Renjiro Yamaoka. And if you don't know who that is Oni's dad. In the lore, he tried to steer Oni away from killing off fake samurais, which, I mean, taking care of fake samurais, not killing, obviously, is something that's very understandable, but killing them is where I would draw the line, and Oni's dad probably had the exact same impression. Well, in the lore, he decided to face off against Oni under a, disguise so he wouldn't be able to tell. And Oni ended up besting and killing his dad before finding out it was his dad. And in a fit of rage, presumably people had come and taken his body. However, it turns out that this could possibly have been the entity actually taking him before his death, as opposed to looters coming in and taking it. Because that's what actually gets said in the lore. Yo, Shark in the future editing this video. So I decided to go on the DBD wiki so I could get images and stuff for this video to, showcase what I'm talking about, and I actually found something pretty interesting. So as it turns out, according to Renjiro's own Wikipedia page, or wiki page on the DBD wiki, it actually says that in his dying moments, he was taken by the entity. And that's very interesting, because I always assumed that, Oni was in such a fit of rage that he didn't realize his father was being taken by thieves. But then going back and thinking about the possibility of Renjiro being added, I was like, well, maybe he was taken by the fog, and the DBD wiki confirms this. Alright, that's all I really wanted to talk about, and continue on with the video. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, firstly, the tome that we had gotten before Quan's release, with all kills, was about Renjiro, which in my eyes set him up to be a very influential figure, and even gave us some more key details on his backstory. Secondly, Oni is a very crucial character in the lore, because not only has he been featured in several tomes, of course his own tome, he's also the reason that Saki is in the realm, which is a character in the lore who actually helped save Maurice, but also because, and this is canon, you can even read her lore, Rebecca Chambers' lore actually points to the idea that Oni was the one that steered her into the realm. Now, before you think I am clinically insane, let me read you the final few lines of Rebecca's lore. As Rebecca pushed through the heaving fog, she suddenly heard menacing footfalls behind her. Instinctively, she reached for her arm, but her holster was empty. Her weapons were gone. As she turned, she heard a guttural roar and quickly evaded a massive club-like weapon, clambering to her feet, rushing towards a flickering light in the darkness. Now, Oni has some pretty loud footsteps in-game. If you put on a perk that silences his terror radius, you can still hear his extremely loud footsteps. Secondly, a guttural roar, and, well... And then, of course, a massive club-like weapon, which would be none other than his Kanabo, which is the weapon he used when he's in his Fury. Now, before you get all like, whoa, that doesn't also mean that he's going to be, in the game. Fair. But before we had gotten Quan, there was leaked concept art for Renjiro. And of course you might be like, well, it's leaked, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And that's fair. However, the formatting for the concept art was the same formatting we had gotten for the prototype V from Sinister Grace. And I'll put it on screen so you see what I'm talking about. So this one right here is the prototype V. As you can see, her name was originally DJ. And the resemblance is uncanny. And then here is Renjiro Yamaoka. And as you can see, the formatting is very similar and everything, so that led me and my friend to believe that we were going to be getting we were going to be getting Renjiro as the solo survivor chapter. And personally, that was the better choice in my eyes. I have nothing against Quan. I think he's a pretty interesting character, but I really feel like getting Renjiro would have been the absolutely much better choice in this scenario. I mean, what sounds cooler to you? A wise old samurai who is literally the father of one of DBD's most violent and brutal killers? Or one of the demons in disguise from K-pop Demon Hunters? I think that's pretty easy to come to the conclusion of. Now, the final example I do want to give is more for my friend Sal. I mean, I side with him because it is kind of a pet peeve of mine, but they really hated this, and I don't blame them. So, basically, they also felt like we were advertised for getting Julian, aka Michaela's best friend in her actual lore. And this one is very understandable because in the tome lore that we just got, Julian's design was revealed. And I mean, yeah, it's pretty standard, it's pretty basic. He literally looks like he could sit at lunch with the goth kids from South Park. But I mean, it's also fitting when you consider Michaela and then you consider Sable, so then adding Julian as basically Robbie from Gravity Falls makes complete and total sense. But then we had gotten Shane, the first ever Native American survivor, which personally I like Shane just a little bit more, but I do admit it is really a very obvious case of false advertisement or, a subversion of expectations, which is always really annoying. And you might be thinking, well, they want to throw us off, they're, like you said, trying to subvert our expectations, and that is very true. It does subvert the expectations. The problem I have with it is that they're using characters that are very crucial to existing characters to push these completely new characters. Because, I'm just going to say it, I've never find Arella interesting. She's completely, because here's the thing, aside from the interest she has in, like, some of the writers she listens to, there is no connection to any previous survivors. Now, she does listen to Sable's podcast, but she is not a friend of Sable's. So, it's kind of annoying to advertise these characters who are very crucial to already existing characters' lore, and then shove out something completely different. And it really doesn't work, especially when you consider that Arella is the 38th most popular survivor in the game according to Nightlight. That's not very good in my eyes. My idea is that they should advertise these characters and obviously add them into the game, but they shouldn't advertise the highly anticipated characters, like the ones I just mentioned in this video, and then give us Arella, Quan, and of course Shane. They can still add those in, but don't do the false advertising first. Add in characters that, they're clearly not going to be added into the game, or, don't have some kind of heavy lore relevance in my eyes. Does that make sense? Like, don't add in Julian, who has been an established character in Michaela's lore for years, but then give us Shane. Don't add in Renjiro into the lore as an established character in Oni's lore, and then shove out Quan. It's just annoying. And this is a very minor, problem in my eyes. This is not something that behavior absolutely has to stop doing. I just really wish they would. This is mainly just a way for me to get back into making videos and specifically get into commentary videos. However, this video is more just a yap. This is more of a video I decided to do, just a yap. But I want to make it clear that I don't inherently think that the false advertisement means these characters are terrible. It's just false advertisement in general gives a bad taste in people's mouths. I mean, if you had known that we could have possibly had gotten Renjiro Yamaoka, would you have really liked Quan that much? Maybe not. But, I mean, that's completely up to you, and I'm not asking you to completely agree with every single point that I have made in this video. I'm just saying that this is my opinion. Do you agree? Do you not agree? I want to hear you give me your thoughts and opinions. Alright, so thank you guys so much for watching. I really am glad to be back into making videos. I'm going to try to make some more videos here soon, and hopefully take advantage of the fact that I am now on summer break. However, obviously that depends on my mood and everything, and if I can get a new laptop, but I am happy to be back. And I do really appreciate Sal, my friend on Discord, for giving me this idea for a video. Alright, that's all I have for you guys this time. I'll see you guys later. Bye!